For some, the path to healing can approach the miraculous. That's especially so when the touch is knowing and the spirit is true.
"20 years ago, some of the most respected doctors in the United States said the scene you're watching is something that could never happen. Not today, not ever. They were talking about this 21-year-old woman, who we'll just call Elizabeth, today walking into an office with her father. They were talking about simple acts like walking and talking and communicate. Things they said long ago that Elizabeth would have to live without.
When she was an infant, we noticed that she wasn't doing the things that children should be doing. We went off to Boston to Mass General, and then were referred to the University of Chicago. And when she was 6 months old, they essentially wrote her off.
Elizabeth was diagnosed by two top pediatric neurologists in the United States as having global brain damage. She pretty much had no voluntary motion. She had no control over her eyes, so people didn't even know if she could see or not. And she had a terribly grim prognosis, according to the medical profession.
The nightmarish news came only months after Elizabeth's birth. The doctors were following the conventional wisdom of the time. But they failed to account for the determination of Elizabeth and her family, the dedication of this woman, Anat Baniel, and a man named Moshe Feldenkrais.
I met Dr. Feldenkrais as a very young child through my father. My father is a scientist, and when he met Dr. Feldenkrais, he believed and still believes that he's an incredible genius.
Anat became a student and eventually a colleague of the man who invented the Feldenkrais method.
Feldenkrais actually assumed that the mind and body are one. He established a way to access the brain to help it gain new skills, new patterns of movement, patterns of thought.
Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais trained as a nuclear physicist until a soccer injury threatened to confine him to a wheelchair if he risked surgery. He embarked on his own healing quest by learning anatomy and physiology and combining that with his knowledge of physics, mechanics, and the martial arts. He not only rehabilitated his knee, he also pioneered new theories of human development and function that became the foundation of the Feldenkrais method.
The trick is to give the person an opportunity to feel how to put the pieces together to get the outcome with a minimum amount of effort, minimum amount of difficulty. And then all of a sudden they can do things they could never dream of doing before.
The Feldenkrais method avoids machines, devices, and mechanical exercises.
There you go. There you go, there you go, there you go, there you go.
Instead, it uses touch and movement to forge new connections between the brain and body.
And now feel what would happen if you kept looking at the hand. This one. Yes, keep going, keep going.
An essential part of the method is the belief that the body can actually teach the brain.
Look at the hand, the whole time. Look at the hand. Look. There you go.
Anat Baniel is now an accomplished Feldenkrais teacher. She has been in charge of Elizabeth's lessons since her student was only 13 months old.
At each series of visits, there would be a perceptible change. And it became clear that Elizabeth would not end up the way they said. She began to walk with a walker, and by the time she was in third grade or fourth grade, she was able to get around without that.
It was later determined that Elizabeth had been born without a third of her cerebellum, that part of the brain that controls muscle coordination and the body's equilibrium.
This is all we could have dreamed of. If you had told me that, in 21 years, I'd be able to walk around in heels, I'd be able to run, to play sports, just to walk around even, to do things myself, none of us ever would have believed you. My parents, myself.
Today, more than 4,500 Feldenkrais practitioners are at work in 20 countries. They're helping their students battle everything from chronic anxiety to cerebral palsy.
And walk around. Just walk around for a minute.
Elizabeth, now a college student winning academic honors, knows that for the method to keep working, she must remain a devoted student of her own body.
How do you feel?
With Anat's help, her mind remembers what it needs to do.
Feel the eyes feel different.
It's the reminder. It's also the fact that each time I'm here, I keep developing and the progress keeps on happening. So it's not as if I'm perfect yet or I'm ever gonna be, but as long as I keep coming, I'm gonna be able to do more and more. Aside from making me physically better, it makes me feel better about myself because, I can finally say I'm like a normal, whatever normal is, I'm a normal, regular person.
And when people continue this kind of growth, they transform, they feel good, they seem to get stronger, more vibrant, and it's something that I believe in a few years, like programs like this, will make it that more and more people will know that they can live like that and feel like that.
She certainly far exceeded what we hoped could happen. Dr. Feldenkrais said she will dance at her wedding, and she's a little ahead of schedule.
A hug.